Welcome to the video podcast of Silicon and Spice, where tech leaders share life's flavors. And today, we are very lucky to have Kristin Chen here. Kristin, you are a startup advisor, also a fractional CPO, and you're also a career exec coach. So you're really fulfilling kind of the I don't want to say multi-dimensional. What's the word? Oh my.
Now they call it portfolio career. Yes, that is the new hot.
That's
hot
the one
word.
I was thinking. Yes. I read the book, The Portfolio Life. Yes, you're really embracing the portfolio life for your career. And right now, you're also the board member of at Partners in School Innovation. And then previously, you're CEO for a few Web3 and gaming startups. You have been directors of PM at SoundCloud, and you also work at top tech companies like Twitch and Pinterest. So my first question for you is, what is your path into product management? Then I realized we are both Pinterest alums, even though our path didn't really cross there. Yeah.
Yes, I know. I was just saying earlier that I can't believe it's taken us this long to meet, but I'm so grateful to have met you through my other friend, Sandy Hong. Great question. So my path to PM, wow, this takes me way back to LinkedIn, where I started my tech career. So at LinkedIn, that was my first tech job. Prior to that, I worked at Franklin Templeton Investments doing economic research, transitioned over to tech to work on data and analytics. And I was on the insights team where about half of our time we worked with LinkedIn's largest clients and the top sales teams to create different narratives about how they could better leverage LinkedIn's data to achieve, their goals in hiring, sales, marketing, or learning, kind of LinkedIn's core business lines. And the other part of my job was building internal tools for the sales teams using our data. And the way I learned about product management was that I built some very popular internal tools. One of them was called the relationship mapping tool. Another one was called decision maker reports. And when those had a lot of internal success, we'd actually kind of throw them over the fence or, work with the product team and they'd actually implement those into Sales Navigator or the Talent Insights product. And I kind of realized, and I said, hey, wait, that's pretty fun. I'm good at this. And that's pretty fun. I want to be the one who's scaling those products. So that's where I first learned about product management. And then I set out on this goal to transition from data analytics to product management. And at the time, I think that, there were paths to do so within LinkedIn. But I had been there for about 3.5 years. So I also wanted to kind of explore, did I want to do product at a FANG company? Did I want to do product at a start? But also, where would the market level me? Did I need to start over as an intern? Did I need to go back and learn how to code? Did I need to go get, a degree in CS or MBA? I didn't know. And so I gave myself about 6 months to 1 year to transition. And I started out that journey just talking to all of the product managers I knew at LinkedIn and outside of LinkedIn. And then I also talked to a lot of the functions who worked with product management, because in my day job, I wasn't working with designers. I wasn't working with engineers. I was mostly working with sales, customer success, other insights analysts and business analytics teams. And so I truly, I didn't really know what product was. And so I wanted to make sure it was the right fit. So spent a lot of time talking to PMs of all different skill or, levels from IC to leadership, and then also kind of 360 all of the cross-functional partners. And I asked them about the best and worst PMs that they worked with. Then I started, going out and interviewing, and I, got rejected from so many. I failed a lot of interviews, but I got better and better each time. And I think once I started making it to final rounds with some startups, I decided to then tap into my referral network. I think along the way, I got a lot of advice. Some folks said, there's no way you're going to make the transition. And I was like, wait, really? I don't know. I have a growth mindset. I kind of believe anyone can do anything. It just might take longer to, get up to speed, et cetera, create the opportunities for yourself. Other folks really encouraging. I had from Cornell, Julie Katz was a product leader, and she said, Kristin, and then also my mentor at LinkedIn, Nathan Joka, he said, hey, Kristin, like your background in data analytics is, close enough to product, right? You need to be very data driven. Why don't you give it a try? Right. If it's not working, then, we can figure out the gaps. But, I kept trying. And then it turns out, a friend of a friend at the time, my friend Charmaine, worked at Twitch. And then I asked her to refer me. And there happened to be a role on the, in the developer experience team where they needed someone to build insights products. So I would say that was probably 6 months into my journey of the transition. I think at the time it was so funny because I was frustrated and I felt that my insights background was holding me back. But in fact, it's the thing that helped me get the role. And it was fantastic because I, brought my insights experience to the table. And then I got to learn kind of the Amazon Foundation for product management. When I joined Twitch, they were, I think, 2 to 3 years into their acquisition from Amazon.
Oh, okay.
So it ended up working out incredibly. And I joined Twitch as a senior product manager. Because I already had expertise in the insights function. So that was my journey. It was rough. I got destroyed in a lot of interviews. I didn't give up, and it all happened to work out.
Thanks for sharing. I love that you talked about basically you kind of did the work, right? You tested water. So you know, okay, this is what it feels like to be a product manager in a tier 1 company. And then you also work hard to get there, even though you face rejections. But eventually what got you there is that your experiences in the insights kind of help you move to a different function, right? So I think that's what I see people. You either move a different function, but doing like similar work, or in the same company, you move, like you do a little bit different work, but it's the same company. So like you don't change too much.
Yes. And I think I remember too, this was at a different point in time in my career, but my brother-in-law had worked at Humu, and he connected me with the founder, Laszlo Buck, for some advice. And I remember, in that short phone call, he was sharing with me that one of the best things you can do to set yourself up for success is not to change too many things at once, which is exactly what you're saying. So kind of kept insights the same, but changed my function of product. And it also happened that I was a big fan of Twitch and games, so I had a personal passion there. And I wanted to address the other part of the question. So Pinterest, I wish we got cross paths there, but I was there from 2019 to 2020, and I moved over after Twitch to help build out the foundation for the creator platform. So I worked at the intersection of any way pinners could interact with the creators. And I think at the time, my team, it was called the Browse team and Discovery team, and then it was changed to creator engagement. But I got to launch reactions. I owned the following feed, creator recommendations, comments and tries, and also built some creator tools, which was a lot of fun.
That's cool. So you were on the front side of the creator side. I was working towards the tail end of the creator monetization program stuff. We probably definitely have a lot of mutual friends from Pinterest. So this is kind of a great segue to my second question, is that you've been a product leader, CEO, CPO, and you have your own kind of fractional consulting firm right now. But what makes you want to transition, right, from climbing the corporate ladder to now really owning your own path? So like, was there an event that triggered that, or was that something your gradual realization, okay, I want to be in control of my time, of my responsibilities, or how did that move happen?
So transparently, I'm a big workaholic, and I think my colleagues can attest to many of my roles. My managers or colleagues always say, hey, Kristin, you're pushing yourself, you're going to burn out, but I'm a little bit stubborn. But I would say after the back-to-back CEO job at Top GG and then the CPO role at MetaTheory, I've never worked so hard in my life. I've never worked so many hours. I never learned so much. It was just really high pressure environment, but we were building, we were shipping. It was exciting. But I was truly burnt out. I would say, I don't know if you've heard this quote, right? Like, living to work versus working to live. I was living to work. I admit it. And so I think that, it was a really hard decision for me to step away. I would say candidly, I think I realized like my leadership style wasn't matching with the rest of the executive team at my last startup. And I was also the only female executive as a CPO, and it was really difficult. And imagine the Web3 industry, imagine the gaming industry intersection combined. And so that was, a big source of my frustration. And I think also separately, I realized, I've loved games, but in Web3, gaming is a new space. And I think when you put them together, for me, when you add in that money aspect, it kind of takes the fun out of gaming. Usually when you're, let's say you buy a board game, or let's say you buy a game on Steam or a console game, you're paying money to have fun. But when you add in that element of Web3 or crypto, and I think it kind of muddles what fun can be, and it can turn into a job for some folks. So I think, I guess, long story short, I just wasn't super passionate about the space. So that was happening. And I was also I think I didn't take a break, and I was exhausted. I'd always take a trade-off on my physical health and mental health for work. So we had that. Separately too, my mom was also going through a really big health challenge. We found out that she had a tumor the size of the tennis ball in her pancreas. And so it was kind of like, I wouldn't say that was the main reason I left, but it was kind of like, okay, wow, I'm really burnt out and exhausted in this role. Like my body is telling me all these signs. Right? And then, also my mom is going through this big health transition. I think I would have left anyway without the health, kind of that she was facing. Luckily, she's okay, but it just kind of woke me up and said, wait, do I really want to be living like
that?
Yeah. Do I just like 24/7, like dedicated to work? And I realized all the time I was spending with my family, I wouldn't be present. I was just, Slack. Like, can I check my phone? Just, even if I went on vacation, it was, it was not great. And so I think it was just, I wasn't happy. I wasn't, loving I think for product or many roles, right, especially for product, you want to feel so passionate, excited about the problem space. And I kind of lost that. And so it was time for me to leave and do something differently. And I think I initially thought that I would just take let me take like 2-3 years off and do nothing. But I'm workaholic, so I started losing my mind. So it was just I started going crazy. And then I also felt extreme guilt from immigrant parents. I don't know if you can relate, but
I can relate.
How can you not work at Bang? How can you not work? You don't need to take a break. What is vacation? So I think it was those factors that kind of led me to take the break. And then I think organically, when you make your little LinkedIn post saying, hey, I left, I started getting a lot of inbound and, from my network saying, wait, hey, are you available to work? We would love you to join a CPO, or are you looking, et cetera. And I told some of those folks, hey, I'm exhausted. I can't do full time. And they were like, the founder said, actually, different companies actually really, we'd love to have you as the CPO, but we still have to work with you in any capacity. How about you be a product advisor, or how about you be a fractional CPO? And I was like, what is fractional? And I think fractional is just a sexy for part-time. What does that mean? But it sounds nice. So for the first 6 months of me taking a break, and I told them I was like, hey, I need to spend time with my mom. I'm also trying to kind of downshift. And they're like, no, we totally understand. Like, we just would love to work with you in even a limited capacity. So I kind of fell into it for the first 6 months. And then, it was going well. And then my sister, she's a designer, and she was like, Kristin, like, I'm going to make a website for you on Squarespace, like, put yourself out there. And I was so resistant. And I think just imposter syndrome, everything. And I was like, she's like, wait, no, let's just make the website so people know you're doing advising. They know you're doing fractional work. And I've always had inbound for career coaching. I actually used to work at Career Services at Cornell. For, my whole undergrad. And then I ended up working at LinkedIn. We all got trained on how to do LinkedIn profiles. I've just helped kind of a lot of folks, like, when I had time, and even took a few clients of doing their professional brand makeovers or negotiation or interviews. I think when I was at the startups, I just had no time to do advising. I had no time to do career coaching because I was all in. And then I did an experiment, I guess, in October 2023. I said, I have my website. Like, I have my, testimonials. Like, let me just launch this on my LinkedIn and on my Twitter and on my Instagram. I'm just going to make one post, and this is my experiment. Let me see if I get inbound, and then, we'll see how it goes. And it's been, I guess, it'll be 2 years at the end of May. So,
nice. Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. So it sounds like it's multiple factor, right? Contributing to this decision. Like health for you, health from the family. And then at the same time, like, when you took a break, you still want to do things, right? I think that's our product. Folks, that's our traits, right? We want to be, we want to be like hands-on doing things, want to building products. And then kind of the career capital, I would describe that you accumulated in the past. That connections you have, they would love to work with you. So this is like a win-win situation, that you're able to have your own schedule, and then they're also able to work with a product lead executive that people can vouch for, that they can trust. So that's a really cool that's a really cool path you kind of embark on, and then you mentioned it's almost 2 years, right? So, and then so far you enjoy it.
Yes, I've been enjoying it. There's definitely ups and downs. And I think in the beginning, this is the first time I haven't been on a W-2. Right? I was like, well, I actually just gave, I was at the Sidebar Summit, and I gave I kind of hosted this round table on from W-2 to 1099. And I would say initially it's scary. I didn't have any, I called a couple of my friends who've done their own small businesses. I also have a lot of friends who are incredible creators. I said, what do I do? And, I had to create my LLC. I had to get insurance. I had to, draft my contracts with the lawyer. And I think the biggest change for me, it really changed my relationship with money. And also I kind of brought my product background in, where I kind of treated this as an experiment.
Own your career as a product right now.
Yes. And I think too, I was talking to one of the founders that I work with, Jed Expert, and he was like, hey, it's interesting. Before you launched, you actually already had product market fit with you as the product because you were having people reaching out.
Right,
That was
true.
your signal. And I was
That's
like,
true.
you're right. I'm the product now. My professional brand is the product now. So I think it's been a lot of fun. But at the beginning, I had a lot of imposter syndrome. It was stressful. I think you don't have a steady paycheck anymore. I think now I've kind of embraced it and, figured that out. But when you're spinning up, I think it just, takes time.
Takes time. Yeah.
And it's a learning experience.
I love the analogy that you tested the water with the product market fit, and then you kind of jumped full in, which is kind of explain the success you have, right?
Yes.
You already find the fit. So kind of my next question is, what does a typical day look like for you as a startup advisor or fractional CPO coach in this portfolio career?
Oh my gosh. I would say it's so funny. My days are so different, but essentially I'm balancing. I have kind of a bucket of clients where, they're companies. I'm either doing startup advising work or more hands-on fractional CPO work. And that's working directly with the founders, or even some of the team members. On anything a CPO does, I typically focus on pre-seed to, I want to say, Series A startups. Sometimes if it's later stage, it's more coaching, specifically just coaching.
Right.
Yes, but it could be anything from with the companies. It could be helping them through their fundraise. With that deck, helping them prepare for a board meeting. It could be helping them do user research, hands-on user research. It could be helping give feedback on product strategy, or also with one of the companies we just hired our first PM, so it was actually like designing that process, coaching the team on how to interview, etc. It could be helping facilitate an offsite. Helping prioritize, figure out the roadmap, et cetera. So it could be anything. So it could be a couple of those things during the day. I'm balancing my current executive coaching. And so I work with a lot of different folks. Initially, I thought the career coaching would mostly be product folks because my background is product management, but it's actually been a big mix of different career levels, all the way from, I want to say high school students, college students,
That's
to,
amazing.
Executive, CEO, CPO level, VP level, et cetera. All of that. And then also other functions like product. A lot of my clients are designers, they work in analytics, operations, even marketing, even, I helped people in the public sector too. So it's been kind of a handful there. And that could be anything from helping someone with an active, also a lot of engineers too. So it could be anything from helping them with an active negotiation, helping them negotiate the highest package, decide between offers. It could also be just helping them at the beginning of their job search journey, or helping them with a whole professional brand makeover, redoing their LinkedIn and their resume, or helping prepare for product interviews, helping with the elevator pitch. So I would say my days really vary. And I think the fun thing is I get to really own my own time and schedule. So what I've done too is my goal has been not to work full time and make sure I carve out time to take care of my health, et cetera. So on one day it might be, I'm trying to think about what did I do yesterday? I had a meeting in the morning with one of my career coaching clients. And then I went to my aerial yoga class for an hour, and then I went to Google to meet one of my friends for lunch, and then came back, did some more work for one of the startups. So I would say the fun part is my days are always changing, but I think the challenge is the context switching. I think already as a PM you can relate. There's so much context.
Project.
Now there's even more context switching.
That's true. But that sounds like a fun day. So at least you have kind of through referrals, or people hear from your LinkedIn or Instagram or website that they come to you with a certain goal, and then you are able to context switch from your side that help them to reach, could be a company reach a fundraising goal, or a person getting an interview and negotiation. So my next question is, compared to your kind of climbing the corporate ladder versus of your fractional kind of consulting advising journey, what are some things you have to learn versus unlearn? I would imagine there are things carry over, being a product leader, being a CEO, CPO, you have the skills, right? You have the executive presence, you have the outstanding communication. But what are things that you realize, I did not know I need this? Or my mindset has to really shift back or something.
No, that's a fantastic question. I think I definitely learned a lot of this the hard way. I think the biggest challenge for me, I did some advising when I was at Pinterest and SoundCloud, but I would say it was just, once 3 hours a month because I was busy. And I would say now with the product advising and fractional work, it's interesting because I'm more arm's length, right? Versus as a CPO before, a CEO or director of product, I'm leading the team. I have my team with direct reports. I don't have direct reports anymore, right? I'm kind of arm's length, and I'm really there as, I want to say, a coach and a mentor for the founder and other folks on the team. And so I think that's been really fulfilling, but also it's kind of different than being more hands-on. I would say with some clients, I am hands-on, but I've learned that I have to really discuss and understand, you know, where can I add the most impact and leverage because I'm not working with them full time.
That's true.
I think that was one thing I had to learn. And then I think another thing I had to unlearn is I'm so used to being all in, you know, I was all in like when I was at Pinterest, like on my product or at Twitch or on SoundCloud, all into, you know, one company, one product, one thing, or even at the startups, right? I would breathe like and live and eat and sleep like top GG and Meta 24/7 and always be checking Slack. And I think I had to unlearn that, like, okay, take a step back. Like I really need, you know, I have different clients, like where can I add the most value, right? I think I was doing that skill in my product roles, but I think now, you know, I have to also realize, hey, I don't have full context. And so I think, I think I had to kind of learn that anxiety maybe a little bit. Like I would be all in at these other companies and thinking about it 24/7. And you know, that wasn't necessarily healthy for me in this other, like, I guess, new phase of my life with the portfolio career. I'm trying to think of what else might have been surprising. I would say negotiation in a sense of anytime I'm, you know, taking on a new client, like we need to discuss whether it's a career coaching client or a company, like really aligning upfront on, okay, what exactly I'm going to do and how many hours are we going to devote to this and what does this engagement look like? I think, you know, I didn't find myself doing that as much in the other roles. It's a bit different, but anytime I do a new advisory agreement, you know, I'm calling my lawyer, we're going through it, I'm talking back and forth with the founder. So that legal aspect and kind of the taxes and accounting aspect was a little new for me. But I think fun, just parts of being a small business owner perhaps.
Right. So you definitely touch the more like comprehensive side of running a business, right? Running you as a product, providing knowledge and value to other people. And then you mentioned kind of keep a distance, right? I would imagine if I use an analogy, I think when you are like the CEO or the CPO, or the executive for a company, you are like kind of painting, I don't want to say a blank canvas, but it's a little bit blank, right? You have a lot of full control, right? How do we do this? What brushes we use? Versus in the current kind of the path you're taking, it's more of a you putting the last piece of the puzzle they might need, right? You don't see the full you don't put the full puzzle together, right? Just like certain pieces that
it's more part-time and you know, and I think so much of this is like dependent on my relationship or match. Maybe it's even like, you know, CEO advisor fit, right? Or founder fractional CPO fit. Like that's actually the most important. I would say it all comes down to my relationship with the CEO and the trust. And I would say working with like different CEOs and founders have different flavors. So it's really finding out how to work with them. Like I've had some CEOs say, okay, actually, Kristin, like I trust you, do whatever you want. Like just imagine the team is reporting to you. Here you go. I don't have time to deal with this. I'm going to deal with something else. And I said, whoa, that's awesome, but really different. You know, I've had other CEOs, especially at the beginning, where I'm like, hey, you know, tell me how I can best support you. You know, what's your style, right? Shall I run things by you, right? Or, you know, do you want me to kind of take this off your plate? And I think it can really depend on the CEO and then the topic. So I think that's something that I feel is a little bit different than being all in as the CEO myself or the director or the CPO.
Because like your clients, they have different styles of working, right? It's, as you said, it's not a one size fit all. It's more like you have to shift your styles to fit into their puzzle a little bit. Okay, nice. All right. So since I work at Stitch Fits, kind of my next question is my bonus question about clothing. So what is your favorite clothing brand?
Oh my gosh, I was thinking about this. Okay, I don't know if I can pick one, but I would say I spend a lot more time working out now. I have no excuse not to work out. So I do like aerial yoga, Pilates, hiking. And I would say for athleisure, athletic wear, I love VUORI. Oh my gosh.
I see their ads all the time.
I love VUORI. The fabric's amazing. For those local, they have an outlet over in Livermore.
No,
which
I know.
I didn't realize.
Okay,
yes.
okay, I
was a little upset when I first found it because I said, okay, why did I not know about this before? But I love their clothes. I think they're really high quality, comfortable. I also love Prana. And I would say for other clothes, I was thinking about this. Do you know Staud? I think that's how you pronounce it. Staud.
No.
It's, I don't know how to best describe it. I feel like they have a lot of really
business casual.
I want to say I would say some things could be like borderline business casual and some things are more like vacation wear, or I want to say more creative corporate.
Creative. So I like that.
Yeah. Not too corporate.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Casual corporate. But still professional. I got this amazing, I wear a lot of their clothes. I'm not wearing it. I know. I should have probably worn one of my favorite designers. But I have this really amazing like knit dress and I always get compliments on it. And me and my other Pinterest girlies who either work there or have left, we're always, we're like, oh, we're kind of elder millennials. What, not to date myself, like what are cool brands in that one? Frame is another one. I love their denim and other clothing, right? It's like I want to be professional, but not too corporate.
Right.
A little bit edgy, but I'm not the edgiest person. But what's that like sweet spot?
Yeah. It reminds me like Stitch Fit's now when we're having the onboarding, we have a style file quiz. Right, so I'm like modern prep where you could be like rusted rubble. So they have different.
Yes.
And I don't want to say it's not a concrete label, but they will give you an idea. Say, oh, this is my style and stuff.
God, I feel like with style and fashion, I've been able to take a little bit more risk because I feel like of where I work, like Pinterest, right? Like it's very fashion.
It's more creative.
For gaming, Web3. It's like you can be more fashion if you want, or edgy, right?
Yes.
I got her pink. It's cool. So I've actually loved that because when I used to work in finance, I love theory, but I wear suits and it's so rigid. Now kind of working for myself, I can, be a little more fun. Or I feel like my clients work in fun, or I'll match and dress to what the client wants.
That's true. That's true. I love that. Okay, well, last question is like a spicy question. Since we talked about this like portfolio career and you're taking the fractional executive path, do you feel like this is only for the people who have, I call it financially made it, right? Or is it also a viable path for people who are trying to climb the career ladder? Because I've seen on LinkedIn, there are a lot of people who actually like this is a great path for people to take on. You have you own your schedule. You can kind of broaden your horizon working with different personalities as well, right? You're not just doing one thing at a time. So I'm curious, you think, is this for everyone or is it for a certain
Great question. Yeah. I think, I guess we'll hit it from a couple different angles. I think first, as I said, growth mindset before, I'm a big believer of, if this is what you want, right, you can put in the work and make it happen. But I do think for anyone who wants to attempt this, you have to have some risk tolerance, right? You have to be willing to take a risk because it's very different to work, right, for yourself fully versus having, right, that paycheck and insurance, right, 401k matching.
Right.
I have to do that on myself. Now, where's my health, paying for my own health insurance? It really made me appreciate a lot of the benefits and stability of corporate. But I think it depends on where you are in your career and how much risk you're willing to take. And then also I think, are you willing to put yourself out there and invest in your brand? And I guess the reason I share this is I've had so many folks reach out to me, different career levels, and ask me, okay, I want to do this. How do I get there?
Oh, okay.
And I think that, on one hand, right, I would say, I think if you're just going to quit your job and go do this, I would say, yes, you should have some financial stability.
Yes.
Like it was easier for me because I had, saved up to just not work for a couple years and, that was fine. Like I was ready to do that. I wasn't, leaving my job and saying, okay, I must replace this salary, right?
With something,
my CPO salary with this. I think some people come in having that mindset. And I think that I usually say, hey, sorry to break it for you, but if that happens, I love it for you. That's amazing. But that's likely not what's going to happen. Typically, if you're going off on your own, it's going to take you time to build up, build up, right? Find your product market fit, get referrals, figure out your offerings, figure out your pricing. Like I had to really, I updated my pricing recently. Like you're figuring that out. And I will say that you have to really give it time. I think I only started to feel comfortable a year in. Like it was much more stressful. And I think usually what I'll say is I have seen people earlier in their careers do this in several ways. Some of them just go and they do, consulting. I don't know if they call it fractional CPO, but they'll just say, hey, I'm a product consultant for startups, or I'm a PM that works with different startups, or I help with marketing, or I help with growth. I've seen folks do that kind of like a mini agency on the side. I think where it gets tricky, no matter what your career level is you have to make sure if you're not fully leaving to do this, that your employer is okay with it.
Oh, okay.
Because I actually, the recent roundtables, folks were asking, and I've had friends come and ask about advisor, and I say, hey, if you're going to have a full-time job and advisor, do things on the side, you need to clear that with your
Right. Yeah. Yes.
I've seen some horror stories where people, took on an advisory, they didn't report it, and they actually got fired.
Oh, wow.
Over it because, it came out in the news, or the company found out in some other way, and the business deemed that as potentially being competitive.
Conflict
of interest, or, they said, hey, you didn't disclose that. And so, for example, I advised when I was at SoundCloud, and I just said, hey, hey, here's the company. I don't think there's a conflict of interest, but I want, to get the sign off. And my manager said, cool, let's send it to HR. I had the paper trail, right?
Yeah.
If you're going into a new role, disclose all of that. You just don't want to put yourself in a bad situation. So I wanted to make sure I said that. I do think that having the financial stability is very helpful because you're not going to have a consistent paycheck.
Right. That's true. That's true. Yeah.
You can, depending on how you structure your services and agreements. So I would say a lot of mine is more consistent now, and I also have variable. But at the beginning, you might not.
True.
Yeah, and it also, startups are more risky. So there's been some situations where I've worked with a company and we kind of mutually decided to end it because they needed to divert that budget to somewhere else. Right. And I realized okay, I kind of have added enough value. Yeah. So I think you have to be ready to kind of, I would say maybe you need a bigger, what do they call rainy day fund or
emergency.
Yeah, emergency fund.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
That's what it is, because you won't have that consistent cash flow. So I usually tell folks who I talk to, if you are supporting family or you have a mortgage or et cetera, really take that into account and maybe, increase that emergency fund significantly. But I think, I think it makes it easier, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yes, because you don't have that kind of mental pressure in a sense. And I always encourage, if you can run an experiment to see how you like it versus diving in.
Product market fit.
Market fit. Find it first. Yeah, we're all, or I assume a lot of product folks, watch this, but, run an experiment. I have some friends who are heads of products or CPOs, and I always say, hey, if you want to do fractional, why don't you, test out advising first, just test it out, see if you even like it.
Right.
Do you like the context switching? Do you like that client? You may have some engagements with clients that you love. You may have some that you don't, but really see how you like it and see how it affects your, main job or affects the rest of your schedule. Because some folks, I'll talk to them and they'll try it and they'll say, hey, actually, I don't want to do fractional, or no, coaching is not for me. So I always say you should try it out first. Run an experiment.
Yeah. I love that. And I agree. I think when I talk to people who financially made it, that shows that they have the risk tolerance you mentioned, right?
Yes. And there's some product market fit there too.
They have demonstrated.
Yes. And I think too, I tell folks, the reason I was able to, I haven't done outbound, which I think I feel really lucky and grateful for my incredible network and clients who have hired me and also done word of mouth. But aside from that little post, I've never done outbound, but I think a lot of folks, I was saying this too, you have to be okay to put yourself out there. If I never post on my website, I'm not going to get clients. But also, if you need clients, you need to go reach out or go to where your clients are. And I think that me investing in my professional brand, they taught us that at LinkedIn very early, how important your professional brand was because of the nature of their product. That has reaped many benefits for me now, Giving different talks, going on other podcasts, just like this. There's one of my friends is Chloe Shee, and I was on her podcast many years ago, and she's built this incredible career in product, but also recently pivoted to full-time content and recently blew up. But so much of my inbound is actually from her podcast that I was on, I think it was 7 years ago. 7 years ago. Oh, people still reach out today.
What? Yeah, we have the same mutual friend.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Yes.
I love that.
She just reached 1 million.
She just reached 1 million. Yeah. I just went to her wedding in Taipei recently, but it's really interesting because so many folks reach out. I think, she was a lot smaller back then, but of course, she's my friend. I want to help her out. Or students reach out to me, or even smaller podcasts reach out. And I think, in my discussions, some people said no. If a small podcast reach out to me, no thanks. And I said, wait, why? As long as they're legit or exciting, I want to support. Okay, of course, if it's a scam, no. But I don't know. For me, it's I want to give back or share my story.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's mutually beneficial. And so I think all of those investments, some of my clients came from me giving talks at other conferences or partnerships. They just kept in touch with me on LinkedIn, saw me, et cetera.
Yeah.
And then, you know, a lot of my inbound, I recently, Cornell invited me to do a talk about building your career roadmap and give some resources. And then so many folks reached out to me for that. And I really just wanted to give back, but they were also like, no, we hope people will contact you for help. So I think just investing in your personal brand and also networking is so important for anything.
Yeah.
Really anything you do.
That's true. I think sometimes people, they're afraid to post on LinkedIn and say, what if my coworker, what would they think of me? I think I didn't post much until I joined Pinterest.
Oh yeah.
Because I think I held myself back. I always think, I have to really make to like the tier 1 company. But then I realized actually, even though like, let's say the moment I graduate from college, there are still things I could learn in public, right? Like build in public, learn in public. There are still things that no matter what stage you're in, just make the post today. There's always things you can do. Yeah.
And I think I was, you know, I was having a conversation about this recently, and I think a lot of people, they're not afraid to fail or make mistakes, but I think they're more scared to do it publicly. That's like a big difference. I mean, it is scary. And I felt the same, like I didn't want to post my website. I was like, oh, what if people, you know, what are people going to think? Or is my website bad? And I realized it's just in my head, right?
That's
you know,
true.
And I always remind people, it's like, you can't get to the top without haters, right? And who cares? You have so many people, right? So many people are going to celebrate and support you and your content you're putting out or helping. There's always some people who maybe you're not a match, you know, you're not for them, but whatever.
I love that mindset. Thank you, Kristin.
Yeah.
All right. These are all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you.